are the Moors. The Moors are the original man and womb man of the planet. The first family of nations to give birth to all other nations. All throughout Europe, the Moors were revered for exposing Europe to things like art, medicine, alchemy, high science, law, etc.
This is my Moorish slave.
What the?
This is my buddy. Yeah, this is my Moorish slave. He serves me everything I need on a pillow. It's a ceramic pillow, but it's still a pillow. I've been using it to store some spare change in my silly bands because I'm a 13-year-old boy. Very mature, right? Yeah. The tray comes off, which I think is pretty cool. You can put it right back on his hands. And I'll just give you a quick up and down on his whole body. He looks eager to please his masters with his little hat and his like, look at how they painted his skin. It's just hilarious. Like, it's not even. Yeah, when we first came to the apartment, we saw this guy and we covered him up in a garbage bag and put him in the closet, thinking anybody who comes into this house, we don't want them seeing this. I decided to take him out because I think he's hilarious, and my friend also wanted to see him, so I'm putting this up partly for him, partly for everybody else, because I know somebody's going to appreciate this. The way they, like, look at the way they painted him, though, you know, look in his eyes. When the light changes in the room, reflection hits his eyes a little bit differently, it's a little bit creepy. It looks like his eyes are moving around. Yeah, so this is my buddy.
But I'm here chilling with my Egyptian slaves that I borrowed from this other Moor, because people are putting out videos about they got Moorish slave statues and stuff like that. And it's kind of odd that the individual who put up this video, people would refer to him as European or whatever like that. But when we do our research as Moors, we realize that, you know, Europe's not even a continent, that's part of Asia. So we don't have to talk about Europe because it's irrelevant, because people who are from so-called Europe, right, they really got amalgamated into the Asiatics of the East. That's why they give all their honors to the East, right? And they make a claim on the West, all right? So as you can see, you know, my slaves are chilling. You know, as you can see, my slaves are paler than me. So when you see somebody put up a video with a so-called Moorish slave that, you know, the skin is so dark and, you know, look how funny it looks. We'll cover this with a garbage bag, put it in the closet and stuff like that. Realize that the real slave is not the Moorish. The real slave is not the dark skin that's wearing a turban with a feather and a jewel, right? That doesn't mean slave. So don't let people fool you into abandoning your birthright because, you know, you think they know something because they're the ones that have the so-called figurine. Because I'm here with a Moor, and he got figurines, and his figurines that are slaves that are holding stuff don't look like him. They look like how they're supposed to look, right? And that's not, you know, slight on anybody or anything like that. That's just what it is. It's nothing personal. Don't get mad. Don't get angry. Just realize and recognize that the Moor or Moorish or anything that has to do with the Moors is not the slave. That's the master. And a master, right, meeting a Moor, had to put this out there because it seemed like, you know, only a few masters looked at this and, you know, wanted to do something about it. Because it's a real issue if you have some so-called European talking about his Moorish slave figurine that his granddad or whoever has, right? And he's making this video somewhat mocking, you know, the Moor, when the reason why he has dark hair is because of the Moor, right? The reason why he has dark eyes is because of the Moor. So when we keep talking this thing about trading places and switching roles, right? Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, and all that stuff, we realize that this is exactly what's going on. They're taking the seats of power because we don't want to be who we are. So they're claiming it. So we're just counter-claiming his claim that the Moors are slaves, that that's a fiction. Moors were never slaves, could never ever be slaves, and to put it on the record that the so-called pale people are the real slaves. Why? Because when we go to our dictionary right here, remember this is the white man stuff, right? So the white man, which is the free white people, which has nothing to do with the Caucasian race, Aryan race, Indo-European, or whatever, right? So the white man's book, which is because of dark-skinned people teaching pale people who are pretending to be white people because they're not really the white people because they're pale, right? And white is a status. So the status of the people who wrote the dictionary, Webster's New International Dictionary, unabridged, second edition, right? They say that Slav is a noun, Greek slave, French slave, Middle Latin Slavus, see slave, a person speaking a Slavic language as his native tongue, hence a person of the prevailing type of race among the Slavic-speaking peoples. The great majority of Slavs, among who are included the Russians, Poles, Bohemians, Moravians, Bulgarians, Serbians, Croatians, Sorbs, Wends, Slovaks, and others, are of medium stature, brachycephalic, Brachycephalic, with moderately dark hair and gray or hazel eyes, thus conforming closely to the alpine race of the tall Adriatic, Adriatic, Adriatic race of Denker, and in other regions approach more or less to the Finnitic, Teutonic, and Tartar types. See Indo-European languages table. And then it says slave of, or Old French, esclave, E-S-C-L-A-V-E, French, Middle Latin, Slavus, French, Slav, Slovak, Slovene, a person held in bondage. Services are under the control of another as owner or master, a thrall, bondsman, see serf slavery, etc., etc., right? So we understand that a Moor can't be a slave because a slave is a Slavic person, right? Slaves are Slavic. Slaves are not Moorish, right? So now we go to Moorish. And Moorish says adjective, more, plus ish, a, pertaining to the Moors, specific, pertaining to the style and design of Moorish buildings introduced by the Moors, Moorish architecture. Okay, so Moorish slave is not something that exists. It's not something that is organic. It's not something that ever existed because the Moors were never, ever slaves. Pale people were slaves, right? And there's documented fact, right? You can go do your research on the Barbary powers. You can do your research on in the Americas, right? First Europeans coming to the Americas. There's a good Skype lecture that we did with Brother Seton Rabe on the Moorish connection to illegal immigrants. And he let you know who the real slaves are. So we just wanted to put it out there for people to understand, understand that the Moors could never be slaves. The Moors are back. That's why you're seeing fezzes on CNN in 2014. That's why Noble Drew Ali said, you know, you're going to see sea of fezzes in the streets, you know, when the 7 bridges cross the sky and things of that nature. Because right now is the time of the Moors. And it's either you get down with your nationality and birthrights, or you're going down with this ship that everybody else is going down with. But remember, everybody else has a home that they can go back to when this ship called the U.S goes down. Right? And if you have no home to go to, then you're going down with the ship. And if you think that your home is somewhere other than North America, Central America, South America, the adjoining islands, then your compass is not working properly. And you need to start navigating again. But that's the only way that we're going to get through. So I want to say thank you to my European KL slaves for assisting me in holding our glasses, right? Doing their job. And remember that they're not mad at being slaves, right? That's their birthright. Their birthright is to be the slave to the Moors. And being in Milwaukee, right? And recognizing that that's a reality based on people who are pale in Milwaukee, and they take the position of, yeah, they're a slave, right? They take the position that they're a slave. And it's an honor. It's not something that, you know, they're mad at. It's an honor. So don't let these people fool you into thinking that they never liked being under the rule of the Moors. Because they would tell you that the Moors did all these, you know, bad things, when the reality is that the Moors founded and civilized all the things that were going bad. So I want to say Islam to all the Moors, stay active, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We give the highest honors to Allah and to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And this is Canaanland Moors, Kudro Adwell, signing out from Milwaukee. Islam.
I'm a Moor. Red fez, black tats, elders of my class, not black or Indians. I repeat, I'm a Moor. Indigenous to the farthest west, say we were great, still they say we the best. Hear what I say, I'm a Moor. Yes, it's true, if not for Drew Ali, most of y'all would have still been asleep. Now you could tell I'm a Moor than you could ever wish you thought you would be. 3 centuries deep in Moorish science, I read, study, I'm a Moor. So y'all didn't tell us about it. Y'all want me to tell my children that they be like, Moor. I'ma have them playing a race and ethnicity game while we losing out here. I'm a Moor. So what, I'm not supposed to tell them that they have a nationality? Let them suffer like we did? I'm a Moor.